And welcome to a special edition of Tucker Carlson Tonight. It was a year ago this month that Joe Biden promised to transform this country, change it more than any president had in over 100 years. He was going to create a new economy through what he called, quote, a once-in-a-generation investment in America, unlike anything we've seen or done since we built the interstate highway system. Wow, that's big. What would it cost? Well, more than $4 trillion. How much is that exactly? Well, it's more than twice the gross domestic product of the entire nation of Canada, and of course, most other countries too. At the Washington Post, they suggested that Joe Biden's promise marked, quote, the waning of the neoliberal era. Now, they described neoliberalism as centrist liberalism friendly to Wall Street, when, of course, it's not exactly that. Neoliberalism is looting with a smokescreen of race and gender politics, so you won't notice that it happened. But the Post told us, relax. Joe Biden's going to give us something even better than we've ever had. Think FDR and the New Deal, but with no downside. So that's what they were telling you a year ago, April 2021. Fast forward a year, and it's clear the Post got it just about half right. Neoliberalism has indeed waned under Joe Biden. It will not survive the Biden administration. But that's not because Joe Biden has rejected neoliberalism or found an alternative, something that will revolutionize America like the interstate highway system. No, it's because Joe Biden embraced neoliberalism, and in so doing reminded the rest of us, tens of millions of Americans, that it's horrible, that neoliberalism serves the interests of virtually no one. It's a cover for the distribution of wealth, a distribution that has become more lopsided in our age than in any age ever. It is a shocking discredit to capitalism. It's not actually market capitalism, it's something controlled and grotesque. So anyone who thinks about this for about 30 seconds gets the point immediately. They don't want you to think about it, and that's why Biden did what they always do. Tried to divide the country along racial lines, make you hate your neighbor so you won't think about where the money's going. He did what Barack Obama did, but much less artfully. Here's Joe Biden warning us that the biggest threat to America is not the fact that you can't afford groceries or that a tiny number of people is richer than anyone in human history. No, the real threat to you is white supremacy.
According to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland. We know now we must confront and defeat political extremism, white supremacy, and domestic terrorism. Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. White supremacy, domestic terrorism, that we must confront and we will defeat.
White supremacy! He has no idea what he's even saying. He's just reading a script that's been around a long time, since at least Occupy Wall Street, a little over a decade ago. Neoliberal politicians and media outlets began ranting about race constantly around that time to get you to stop thinking about what they were actually doing, and for a long time it worked. But it can't work forever because it's not true. They've been telling you for a decade that white supremacy is the real threat, but if you read the news, you know that's probably not true. You've seen a lot of mass killings recently, and none of them have been motivated by so-called white supremacy. It's a little bit more complicated than that. All of a sudden, you see people attacked in race-based crimes, but it's not the storyline that they have approved. It looks exactly the opposite of what they've been telling you. Of course, a black nationalist mowed down an entire parade full of Christmas celebrators in Wisconsin, right? Another killed a Capitol police officer just after Joe Biden took office. And then recently on the New York City subway, an avowed black nationalist opened fire in a crowded car. Then a BLM activist tried to assassinate a guy running for mayor in Kentucky. Again, it doesn't mean that the country has an epidemic of black supremacy, but it does mean that the constant harping on race, dividing us by skin color, telling some people that they are hated by the country itself, has consequences. The Democratic Party has embraced a Wall Street-approved theme, a talking point about white supremacy. And to this day, neoliberals are trying to salvage that, to convince you, no, it's really true. And that's why Merrick Garland has never announced a probe into anything other than white supremacy. It's why General Mark Milley isn't reading books about anything other than white supremacy. So the talking point may be fake, but they're continuing to throw it at you. At this point, Joe Biden is not just inventing racial crimes and attributing them to millions of people who did nothing wrong. He's also inventing entire new genders, too. And this is another smokescreen. So first it was people should hate each other based on their skin color. Now it's let's leave the entire population wondering what a woman is. Here's Joe Biden defending something called trans senior citizens. Watch.
We're committed to advancing transgender equality in the classroom, on the playing field, at work, in our military, in our housing and healthcare systems, everywhere. There's always more work to do to end the epidemic of violence against transgender women of color and girls of color, to ensure transgender seniors can age with dignity. To parents of transgender children, affirming your child's identity is one of the most powerful things you can do to keep them safe and healthy.
Ensuring that trans seniors live with dignity. Well, who's against that? Nobody's against that. Everybody is for it. But people watching this might wonder, well, what about every other kind of senior? What about the rest of the population that has diminishing hopes of retiring with dignity and higher than ever chances of retiring in poverty? Yeah, that's not even addressed. Instead, they're pushing the story on you so you don't even have time to think about it. We now have a trans admiral. Well, the good news is people are rejecting this because it serves no one. It does not uplift anybody. It makes the population hate each other. So our leaders don't understand that. They don't understand that their ideas have been rejected by the population. Corporate media, which carries the ideas forward into the living rooms of America, doesn't understand it either. But the reality may wake them up. You're seeing it happen again and again, the rejection of neoliberal ideas. Consider the collapse of CNN+. According to Axios, quote, executives bucketed CNN Plus's potential audience into three groups with various models of overlap. 29 million CNN superfans, they estimated, 24 million subscription video on demand fans, as if people want to pay more for anything, and 36 million global news consumers. So think about those numbers for a second. CNN convinced itself it had 29 million superfans. That's even less plausible than 81 million votes in a presidential election. And it turned out to be completely disconnected from reality. In the end, CNN Plus got about 10,000 viewers. Why? Because people don't really want to pay to watch that crap, to be called bigots or learn about trans senior citizens. It has nothing to do with their lives. And they know for a fact it won't improve them. So what are they listening to? They're listening to people like Joe Rogan. Why? Not because of his political agenda, but because he's interesting and he's curious and he noticed the world changing all around him and he wants to know what the hell's going on. And so does everyone else. And that's why Rogan gained millions of subscribers since CNN tried to have him fired a few months ago. At the same time, the company that employs Joe Rogan, the streaming service Spotify, had to, and you may not have seen this story, offload the Obamas, to whom they had paid millions and millions of dollars. Why? Because no one wanted to watch the Obamas either. Because they had nothing to say. Because they're banal. They're not interesting in any way. So take 3 steps back. What are we watching here? We're watching the end of neoliberalism and its core plank, the thing it depends upon to survive, which is corporate control over media and hence your brain. They need to control what you think or you will reject them. But increasingly, they're not able to because censorship, thank God, is dying. And we can credit, to some great extent, Elon Musk for that, the richest man in the world. He recently bought Twitter. Now, polls made it very clear that Americans support this. Why? Not because they want another billionaire to own another media property, but because, and the Harvard-Harris poll found this, a majority of Americans understand that Twitter was a force for censorship, a force for control over the population. And it turns out most people, since they live in this country and they're citizens, would like some say in how they're governed. So they want to give their opinions out loud without being punished for it. Therefore, they are glad that Elon Musk is promising to end the censorship of Twitter. So why are people rejecting this? Well, part of the reason is that while Joe Biden was making a fool of himself, going on about trans seniors, Americans are getting poorer and they feel it. There's no hiding it. Many Americans can barely afford to live in their own country. Watch.
Year to year, meat, fish, poultry, and eggs jumped almost 14%. Used cars and trucks up 35%. Gas up 48%. Blame a tangle of pressures. Supply chain issues. Trucks waiting up to 30 hours to cross from Mexico into Texas. Labor shortfalls.
Oh, a food shortage. How many revolutions have been spurred by food shortages? Most of them. And the food that is available is quickly becoming hard to afford for people. But the Biden administration barely acknowledges this. Their solution? Flood the country with 2 million new people. They might all be good people. It doesn't matter. The volume is what matters. More people, fewer resources. What does that look like? More shortages. Here's our own Bill Malugin.
In Eagle Pass, Texas, it's a scene that plays out every morning. Just after sunrise, migrants make their move, wading across the Rio Grande, entering the U.S. illegally, and they continue to come from all around the world. They come in historic numbers. CBP in March alone reporting more than 221,000 migrant encounters. That's the highest number in more than 2 decades. The river can be deadly. Fox News this week witnessed the bodies of multiple drowned migrants being pulled from the water. On the International Bridge in Eagle Pass, as the end of Title 42 on May 23rd looms, groups of migrants are expelled back to Mexico every 30 minutes.
Right. So it's just supply and demand. If you were having a dinner party and you had just enough food for 12 people, but you invited 1,200 people, that would mean not everyone got to eat, right? Competition for scarce resources like food and gasoline is a huge, huge problem. But there are other effects, by the way. While most people coming over the border are simply looking for a better life, they're good people, they want to work. Some of them aren't good people and they don't want to work, they want to sell fentanyl. And they are. And that means a lot more overdoses.
Georgia health officials say fentanyl has infiltrated street drugs. Just a few days ago, the GBI and Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office made a major bust. Among the drugs, a quarter kilo of fentanyl. They say that equals more than 100,000 deadly doses.
6 men were rushed to the hospital Thursday. Investigators saying they overdosed on a cocaine cocktail laced with fentanyl.
The Seattle field office of the DEA has confiscated 1.1 million fentanyl pills, 200 guns from cartel drug traffickers in the Northwest just in the last 4 months.
The problem, they say, fentanyl is too affordable and too available.
It's just specific here because people can come here all over and get it dirt cheap and not get no consequences here.
So it's just awful. People are dying, and not just in San Francisco. Life expectancy, average life expectancy for American-born citizens is down. So if there's any measure of failure, it's that. And the truth is, it doesn't matter what Biden says or any of our political leaders say. You can say whatever you want, but people still live here and they still have eyes to see. And if their lives are getting worse, they know that you're lying and that the beliefs you are selling are hollow. And the core belief is neoliberalism. That's been completely discredited and killed by Joe Biden. If he's achieved anything as president, it's that. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson Tonight.